Hello, dear learners. First of all, I welcome you all to this module on communication skills, which is a part of the MOOC on skill development of the youths and their livelihood. Communication skills is a very vast area of study. However, in this module, we shall discuss some of the very basics of communication skills that are helpful in our personal and professional lives. So, after going through this module, you will be able to explain the meaning of the term communication, find out the different types of communication, and learn about the different skills involved in the process of communication. The term communication refers to the modes and manners of exchanging ideas, views, information, etc. between two or more persons. The word communication is derived from the Latin word communis, meaning common. It essentially implies the different ways of conveying and receiving information and messages between two or more individuals. Humans communicate through words which may be written and spoken. They also make use of nonverbal signals for transmitting information. This act of exchanging information and ideas between two or more persons is known as communication. We as human beings always need to sustain our relationship with others in order to get what we want. In order to do that, we use a collection of behaviors which can be described as communication skills. Although we use them in our daily lives, we also need to be aware of how to develop those skills. Communication skills, therefore, refers to the ability of an individual to interact effectively with anyone. We all know that to communicate, we use a language system where the term skills become very important. In order to communicate through a language, first we need to learn that language. Thus, the main purpose of learning a language is to develop certain skills or abilities to understand the language when spoken, to speak the language as and when necessary, to read the different types of texts written in that language, and to express oneself through writing in that language. Strong communication skills help an individual in every aspect, from professional to personal life. If we imagine a work environment like an office, all transactions take place through proper communication. Therefore, good communication skills become very essential to understand an information or message more quickly and accurately. Communication takes place when the sender has a message to communicate. He or she also has a purpose to communicate that message, and he or she has adequate knowledge of grammatical rules to construct the message. This would entail that effective communication involves the following three things. The communicators understand the social situations they are involved in. The communicators understand the message being communicated, and the communicators respond appropriately. So, let us now have a look at the different types of communication. Communication can be categorized into two main groups. One is verbal and the other one is non-verbal. Verbal communication can be of two types, written and spoken or oral. Written communication can take place in different situations, notably formal, semi-formal, and informal situations, while spoken or oral communication can be face-to-face communication where two persons are exchanging information in a formal, semi-formal, or informal situation. It can even be a group of persons listening to a speech with very little interaction, or listening to the radio or television programs where there is no interaction at all. The other type of communication is non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication, on the other hand, does not use words. Instead, the communicators use body language like facial expressions, eye contacts, etc., postures, gestures like shrugging, nodding, etc., handshakes, wearing of attire, appearances, etc. So, in nonverbal communication, by looking at the facial expression of a person, it is possible to receive a message. Let us in the following quickly discuss the three different types of communication in some detail. Written communication. The range of written communication is very wide. It could include the following activities: factual descriptions of a process, objects, instruments, descriptions of places; report writing, which also includes reporting an event or meeting; newspaper reports, reports for school, college magazines, reporting experiments, etc. It may also include letter writing, which includes personal or informal letters, formal letters, business letters, letters of invitation, replies to invitation, etc. It may also include note-taking, which includes summarizing and abstracting. It also includes advertisements, emails, notices, circulars, etc. Again, depending upon the situation, written communication can be very formal. Here is an example of a formal communication. Mr. and Mrs. Dilip Dutta request the pleasure of your company at the wedding of their son Rakesh with Tina, the youngest daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Pradip Das. This is a formal piece of text. People normally in day-to-day conversation do not say request the pleasure of something. However, the formality of the style suits the formality of the social occasion. Formality is achieved by the use of the formal words and phrases and sentence structures. The situation being a formal one, the written communication is also made formal to suit the occasion. Secondly, depending upon the situation, written communication can be semi-formal or informal. Semi-formal communication is characterized by a precision. For example, communication made by the editor of a newspaper in his or her editorial article is an example of semi-formal written communication, whereas an informal piece of communication would prefer shorter sentences. So we find that formal communication is more structured, while informal communication is rather spontaneous. Examples of informal communications are proceedings of departmental meetings, circulars, notices, emails sent to friends and family members, etc. Now let us look at what is spoken or oral communication. Spoken or oral communication, or which is also sometimes called face-to-face communication, is a process of mutual exchange of ideas and information as well as adjustment. Spoken or oral communication would include the following spoken activities: factual descriptions of a process, reporting or commentary of an event, interviewing, public speaking, announcing in media, meetings, etc., interacting with people on various communication activities like identification, description of people, things, etc., requesting, providing information, expressing opinion, suggesting, advising, reminding, warning, etc., inquiring, providing information, etc., telephonic communication, and so on and so forth. As in case of written communication, depending upon the situation, spoken communication can also have different levels of formality. A person can be formal in his or her speech, semi-formal or even informal, depending upon the situation in which language has been used orally. In speaking, how do we know that we are using a semi-formal or an informal variety of the language? Making use of informal words in speech can bring your speech to the level of informal communication. Here is an extract of a semi-formal communication, and please note how their informal versions differ. In the following example of semi-formal spoken communication, where one person is asking another about his child. This is an example of semi-formal communication. One person, Davidson, is having a discussion with another friend, Johnson. Davidson is saying, "By the way, how is your child doing?" Johnson has replied, "I would say it is hard work all the way. He doesn't have any time for his parents these days." Now, the same conversation can take place in an informal way, like in case of the following. Davidson, by the way, how is your kid? Johnson says, I would say it's hard work all the way. He does not have any time for his mom and dad these days. This is an example of informal speech. You will discover that in informal speech, the use of informal words and phrases makes the language more natural than in case of semi-formal or formal communication. Communication made in social gatherings, over lunch, or tea parties are informal oral communication. You will notice that the hallmarks of informal oral communication are contracted forms of common auxiliary verbs. Now let us look at nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is one where words, phrases, and sentences are not or rarely used. It is a type of communication that takes place through different gestures, signals, behavior, body contact, and so on. We all use gestures, which are expressions using body language. Our face can also express different moods and feelings. Our feelings of happiness and sadness, anxiety and annoyance can all surface in our facial expressions. Likewise, our body language or gestures can also express different feelings. Shrugging shoulders, making some gestures with the hand can be communicative of these different feelings. Movement of the face and body, grimace, etc. can give clues to a person's personality. The point that is made here is that nonverbal communication can be combined with oral communication to make our communication even more explicit or expressive. But please also note that deaf and dumb language, traffic signals, and a host of other visual communication also fall under the category of nonverbal communication. Now, as we have discussed the different types of communication above, we shall learn about the skills involved in communication. Let us take the case of written communication. As we often see that written communication skills involve an advanced level of writing skills. Written communication mostly involves grammatical competence and textual knowledge. Now, what is grammatical competence? Grammar provides the logical base without which verbal communication in any language would be almost impossible. The base of verbal communication is words which combine in a meaningful grammatical framework to form phrases, clauses, and sentences. Grammar teaches about the different structures of sentences. It also teaches the skills of manipulating the structures so as to make a statement, ask a question, instruct someone to do something, and also to express our feelings or emotions. Now, the second element in written communication is textual knowledge. What do we mean by textual knowledge? Textual knowledge refers to the ability to combine sentences to make a paragraph and paragraphs into an essay. However, it also requires a person to have knowledge of the text. You must understand that just as one word in a sentence leads to another, so also in a paragraph, one sentence leads to another. In between, there are certain features that contribute to the textuality of the paragraph. Now, these features actually include two other aspects. One is cohesion and the other one is coherence. What do we mean by cohesion? Suppose you have written a few sentences in the form of a paragraph giving an account of the meanness of road accidents. These are the first 4 lines of your composition. The sentences are not given here in the way you may have written. Let me go through text A. There are 4 sentences in this excerpt. It is gratifying to note that the government and the conscious public have finally woken up to the dangers posed by the problem of road accidents. However, recent occurrences have shown the highest rise in the number of deaths due to road accidents. Even a section of the parents are not at all worried about buying 2-wheelers for their college-going sons and daughters. Not much attention has been paid very recently to the meanness of road accident in the locality. In the above extract, is there a cohesive relationship within and between the sentences? Now read the passage B and ask yourself whether you have understood anything. Now let me read the same 4 sentences in a different way. Not much attention has been paid very recently to the menace of road accident in the locality. Even a section of the parents are not at all worried about buying two-wheelers for their college-going sons and daughters. However, recent occurrences have shown the highest rise in the number of deaths due to road accidents. It is gratifying to note that the government and the conscious public have finally woken up to the dangers posed by the problem of road accident. Unlike text A, text B has a cohesive relationship within and between the sentences. This relationship between the sentences is known as cohesion. Now, what do we understand by coherence? Why is it that we could not clearly comprehend text A above? The answer is that there is no relation between the parts of each sentence. There is no logical development of ideas as noted in the 4 lines. However, this is not the case with text B. Here we discover transitional signals that guide us smoothly from one sentence to the other. Coherence is therefore an indispensable feature of a piece of text. So remember, when you write something on a given topic or try to communicate through writing, there should be logical development of ideas. Each sentence must be linked to the other to make the passage coherent. Now, let us have a look at the skills involved in spoken oral communication. We should note that oral communication skills involve an equally advanced level of speech skills. In addition to grammatical competence, it is important for the language users to have an oral competence or oral fluency. This would entail that he can use the language orally for the purpose of communication. In order to have oral fluency, one should understand how spoken communication differs from written communication at the level of vocabulary and syntax. Therefore, one should try to understand the following. The syntax of spoken language is much less structured than that of written language. The conversational speech, mostly active declarative forms are used, passive forms are rarely used. In conversational speech, the speaker uses a good deal of rather generalized vocabulary. For example, a lot of, got, do, things, nice, etc. In addition to the above mentioned points, one should keep the following skills in mind to become a good communicator. Maintain confidence while trying to communicate something orally with someone. Find the right word for the right context. Try to be natural while speaking. Try to keep your listeners interested and busy. Try being a supportive listener so that meaningful interaction may take place. So, here we come to the end of this module. In this module, we have tried to look at the concept of communication, the types of communication, and communication skills that you all should have to exchange information and ideas with other persons smoothly. As we all know, in the current business world of the 21st century, English as a language of communication is becoming more and more important. Therefore, the skills necessary for becoming a better speaker in English shall have to be earned by you if you want to speak and write English well. I'm quite sure by inculcating the skills of good communication, soon you will become competent communicators in any language you speak. So thank you all and see you again in the next module.